name is Sasha Paradise. I'm a junior at Holy Cross, and I'm currently completing an economics major, an ethics society, and institution of business minor, and I'm also working towards a business fundamentals certificate. This is my first year at the Women in Business Conference as a member of the planning committee, and I must say that having seen and been part of behind the scenes work of today, it's amazing to finally see this day in fruition. I'm honored to introduce our session and our speaker. Our session is called Language for Good Living, 10 Tips on Communicating with Yourself and Others, and Nancy Sawyer. Nancy is a certified life and success coach who graduated from Holy Cross in '92, and since then has discovered and dived into her life's purpose of mentoring women to master life transformations and change. Nancy's entrepreneurial background, life experience, and lessons have all accumulated into a business that helps others. Nancy is a regular speaker at Life Coach University and is a life coach instructor for LCU's Youth Empowerment Scholarship. And she was also a featured speaker at Jay Shetty's Coachpreneur Conference. In 2021, she co-led the monthly women's discussion group, What's Next? Nancy offers individual coaching, mentoring, leads workshops and courses, and is founder and facilitator of the Compass Club, which focuses on women supporting women in growth. Nancy was previously a panelist for the Women in Business Conference in 2018. Please join me in welcoming her as a speaker today.
Hey, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. I'm a little nervous. This is the first time I've been in a room this big. I've presented this talk several times to other groups, but in smaller rooms. So thank you for letting me show up authentically as me with my heart pounding. Hopefully it won't turn red, we'll see. So this is 10 tips on communicating with yourself and others. I want to thank Sasha, who has really guided me for the past couple months as I've been putting this together. We had a great session where I did a dress rehearsal and we got some feedback and I improved my talk. So I really appreciate your help. And also I had told her I only wanted smart, intelligent, wonderful, incredible women in the room. And you've done a great job. So, thank you, everybody. So yeah, I'm a 92 graduate of Holy Cross. I majored in history. And I've done nothing with history except watch the History Channel and say, yep, I knew that. I knew that. Yeah. So the thing about Holy Cross is we get such a great education. We learn how to learn. And so you can take that anywhere. When you know how to siphon through bits of information and do research and pick up something here and here and here, and put it all in that filter in your head and use it, that is the gold. That's the gold that you get here. And I'm so grateful for that. So a lot of this is bits that I've ciphered through. I don't have a master's in anything except life experience. And sometimes experience is the greatest teacher of all. So I want to note, in addition to having my degree in history, I, for a period of time, was an owner of a printing and marketing company. I was an owner of a clothing line. I pivoted to coaching in 2020. And I'm also a mom of 2 teens, a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. And I'm also a member of the 50 States Half Marathon Club, which means that my goal is to run a half marathon in all 50 states. So far, I've done 4. So I have a long way to go. I'll be on a walker in the last one, but that's okay. It's good to have big goals. It's good to have big goals. So I also want to note it's never too late to pivot, to reinvent yourself. If you wake up one day and you find that you are not happy, you are not fulfilled, if you want to change your major or your job or who you're married to, you can do that. You do not have to be a martyr. You do not have to suffer. You do not have to stay in one space in your life because you made this decision 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Okay. I want you to know that you can reinvent at any time. The reason that it's important is because we are all meant for great things. The world needs every one of us. The world needs you to develop your gifts, develop your talent, live your purpose, and share that with the world. We need you. We need you. Okay, so Haven't even gotten started on the tips yet. I'm gonna try not to keep it too late. I'm gonna use that clicker. So my notes are here, and I need notes, because if I don't have notes, I'm gonna be talking about, I don't know, that time on Carroll Street back in the late 80s. Yeah, so we need the notes, but they're here and they're not, so. Welcome. Let's take a deep breath, big breath in, and a big exhale. That exhale has to be really, really big, because we want to leave behind everything that's on your mind, all the stuff your brain is saying to you, all the words mine is saying, like, you're not good enough for this. You can't do this, right? Do you ever get that? Breathe it out. I do this several times within an hour. I do it hundreds of times a day. It's okay to breathe. Breathe out those feelings. Breathe out those emotions. Breathe out the words that tell you you're not good enough. Okay, you are good enough. So I want to know who's in the room. How many people here are students? Awesome. How many people are, so the rest of you are alumni, right? How many of you are parents? Moms, okay. What about teachers? What about in corporate or finance? Okay, excellent. Okay, good. Entrepreneurs? Anyone with their own business? All right, what else? What am I missing? Nonprofit, yes. Awesome. Okay, good. Good mix. Okay, that's good, because that's gonna help. So I want you to know the best way to predict your future is to create it. Abraham Lincoln. You have the power to create whatever you want. You have the power to create so much. When you walk into a room, when you go into an interaction, you have power to create the experience. Okay. I want you to know that everything is energy. Okay. So think about the energy you're bringing to the space. Are you bringing the good energy? Are you being the good energy? I've heard it mentioned earlier today, right? You know, that person who walks in the room and like all the energy drains, right? You mentioned that, Lori. Well, you know, those people in your life who walk in and they lift up the room, right? They make everybody smile and make everyone feel great, right? You can be that. You can be that in every moment, in every interaction. You know, good energy is attracted to good energy. So when you can be that good energy, do you know who's attracted to you? Customers, clients, coworkers, colleagues, new friends, new romantic love interests, right? People are attracted to good energy. So be aware of the energy you're bringing. And I know you're saying, okay, Nancy, how does this apply to language for good living? You know, communication is made up of many parts. It's the energy you bring. It's the tone, it's your body language, it's the words you say. What else? What am I missing? There are other things there must be. Guys, I'm a conversationalist, not a speaker. So I'm gonna be really needing your help here and hoping that you'll engage with me. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Okay, all right, good. I got 100 on that one. All right. So today we're going to focus on the words that we use. Okay. The words we use with ourselves and with others. Okay. These are tips to add to your toolbox. Some of them you're going to know, you use them all the time. Other ones you may have never heard before, or you may have heard it said in a different way. Okay. So this might be a refresher, might be new stuff. All throughout life, we always want to be curious and be learners. Okay. We never know it all. And sometimes we know it and then we forget it. And you need a space to remind you of it. Okay. How you talk to people can either draw them in or it can push them out. It creates an experience. It can create a great experience, an engaging experience, or it can create a disappointing experience. So I want you to just think about that. Most importantly, I want to talk about how you talk to yourself, because that fuels everything else in your life. So we're going to start with that. So I'm going to ask a question. Do you talk to yourself? Yeah, of course I talk to myself. I need expert advice, right? Because we know it all, right? But beyond the advice, that loop in your head that tells you, I can't do this. I can do this. You know, where does that sit for you? How do you talk to yourself? You know, how we talk to ourselves matters. What is that conversation that happens in your head? Is it positive? Is it negative? Are you at battle with yourself all day long? I'm going to share with you my number one rule that I live by. The golden rule for me is always lead with love and kindness. Okay, and it starts with yourself. You know, a lot of times people they're really nice to other people. They love their spouse, their partner, their friends. They're really nice to their children, their parents, their siblings, but they're really not really nice to themselves. So be aware. Do you talk to yourself like you do to someone you love? It's an important question. I want you to know we are all human beings. Everybody's doing the best they can. Okay. We all deserve love and kindness, even when people are treating you poorly, even when people are acting like jerks. They deserve love and kindness. We are all human beings. We're doing the best we can. Sometimes we find ourselves saying, they should know better. They shouldn't treat me like that. I want you to know not everybody brings the same tools to the table. So that other person who you're upset at, who you're angry at, who you think should know better, they might not have been raised the same way as you. They may not have had the same education as you. They may have had very difficult life struggles. You don't know what they're bringing to the table. So let's just remind ourselves, everybody is human, okay? We're all doing the best we can. Accept mistakes from yourself and from others. Allow people to be human. Okay. And again, you deserve love and kindness too. So how you speak to yourself is really important. So I have a little note to self here. I love how I keep going even when it gets hard. Do you ever say that to yourself? What do you say? This is too hard. I can't do this. What do you say to yourself? Is it supportive? That narrative in your head, right? When you say something like this, it's like giving yourself a hug, right? It's like a nice hug. So how can we change our inner language so it supports us? Tip number 2, one of the ways is to remove yourself from the emotion or the behavior. What does this mean? It means when you say, I'm angry, versus saying, I feel angry. Do you see the difference? It's a very subtle shift. But when we say, I'm angry, that embodies the whole emotion around our whole being. Okay. See, in order to function as healthy adults, we need to feel the emotion. The emotion is a thing. We need to let it flow out of us, go away. Right. So when we say I'm angry, there's nowhere for it to go. You are it. You are the emotion. So that subtle shift, I feel frustrated. It allows you to go and go, ah, and then it's gone. Right. Whatever you need to give yourself in that moment to feel the emotion and release it, right? If you're sad, sometimes I need to go and cry for 15 minutes. And then it's gone and I feel better, right? So allow yourself to feel emotions and be aware of how you talk about those emotions to yourself, yeah? Also with the behaviors, okay? We're human, we are allowed to make mistakes. Sometimes we do something that's hurtful, that doesn't end well. We say, I'm a terrible person, right? You're not a terrible person. Maybe you chose a behavior that was hurtful, but you can learn from that. You can grow, right? You can make a different choice next time. So don't beat yourself up. You have a lot of potential and you can take it anywhere you want. Every new breath, every new moment is a new opportunity to be the person you want to be, to show up as a better version of yourself. So don't keep yourself boxed in. Okay. I have another note of support here. Just because I messed up doesn't mean I'm a failure. Failure is information. It tells you what doesn't work. Okay. So we do something, we have a failure, and we know, okay, that doesn't work. Let's try something else. Okay. It's just information. I'm going to move on to tip number 3. Use language of action and for living in the present in the future. What does that mean? Well, have you said this before? I'm trying to lose weight. So if you're trying to lose weight, that's great. That's a great, something to look forward to, something you're working on. But what if I say, I'm committed to losing 5 pounds? You see the difference? So when I go into the lunchroom or when I go downstairs and I see those awesome brownies and lemon squares that I just had, if I'm trying to lose weight, for me, I'm trying to lose weight, but those look so good. I'm definitely having some of that, right? But if I'm committed to losing 5 pounds, then it's, those look great, but I'm committed to losing 5 pounds. So that's not an option for me today. You see the subtle difference there? So in that language that we use, we can transform how our brain thinks about it. The other thing is when we say I'm working on that, I'm working on not swearing so much, I'm working on that constantly. I'm working on being a better mom. I'm working on trying to get to work on time regularly. When we're working on it, again, it gives us an out. It's like, I'm working on that someday. Someday I'll get there, right? But we can wake up every day and say, I am this. So for me, I'm a runner, right? I decided that every day that I get up and run, I am a runner. Because for a lot of time for me, I said, I'm not a real runner. Like, I don't really run. I know all these like serious runner people. I'm like, they are runners. I'm not a runner. And I eventually got to the point, I was like, you know what? Every day that I get up and run, I am a runner. Yes. Right? So we create our experience of life and how we feel about ourselves and our confidence by the language we use with ourselves. Okay, so I have a couple more notes of self here. I did a great job today. Have you ever told yourself that at the end of the day? I hope so. I hope so. I'm proud of who I am becoming. Okay. How often do you say these nice things to yourself? How can you be your biggest supporter? See, I'm a coach, so I ask a lot of questions. That's like my job. So you don't have to answer them all. They're really just here for you to consider. Okay. Sometimes we say, again, nice things to our children, our spouse, our friends. We don't say them to ourselves. So consider that. Remember, everything is energy, and that positive thoughts, positive energy that we put out to ourselves and others. It's very helpful. I want to take a pause here to pass out my little stickers here. So these have some positive notes to self. So these are stickers and they have some little positive notes to self on them. Take a couple if you want, if there's someone else you want to give it to. Guys, I want you to put this somewhere prominently. And I also want you to think about what other notes to self would you add? I'm gonna pull out this nice easel here. Thank you, Sasha. And. Ooh, over more? Yes, perfect. So there's some to start with. What other positive things do you say to yourself? What do you say? Anyone? Something positive? Yeah.
I love how I handled that situation.
Oh, that's so good. I love how I handled that situation. Wow. What else? Who else has one? Yeah.
It's okay that I do one thing at a time. Like sometimes my brain spins where I want to try and do many things and I find out that I pause. And just do one and then the next one. Like I know sometimes life isn't so linear, like you can't maybe do that, but I find that it kind of helps me personally.
Yes.
And my brain doesn't want me to do that most times.
Nope.
It mostly wants me to do more things at once.
Yes.
And I find like I do my best when I do kind of pull back.
Yeah. Multitasking is overrated, guys.
Whether it be work or
Single tasking is the way to go. You will be more effective. You'll be more focused. You will get more done.
it's proven, that is proven.
Yes. Yeah. Single tasking.
Gears, you lose like.
It's against everything we're taught, right? I can do it all. I can type and do this and change the diaper and whatever, right? One thing at a time. You'll be much more
And
successful.
I think don't punish yourself for doing that, because I feel like sometimes it makes me think I'm like not doing that enough. But I think sometimes in our brain, just what you said is that we're told we can do it all. Like, why didn't you finish 18 things today and get your job done?
Right.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And you can stay more focused, right? You can be fully present because here's the thing. This is life. We're here now, today. The next moment, tomorrow is not guaranteed. So be fully present with what you're doing, right? Don't be on the phone with your friend while you're also doing all this stuff over here, right? You want to be fully present with whatever you're doing. That is how you get a full experience of life, right? And you had something you wanted to say to you. A note to self.
Yeah, I deserve rest.
Ah, yes, you do.
Sometimes I think of it as unproductive, but
Yes. Yeah, you got to show up as the best version of yourself, right? How can you do that?
I am more than the work I do.
That's so good. You guys are going to be on my stickers 2.0.
I think I always feel like if I don't do like my best job as like a worker, then like it really like defines like my self-esteem. And so I've been trying to do some work to like make that separation that like me as a person, I mean so much more than I am as a worker or anything else. Like I can just be me.
Love it.
And that's enough.
Yes, you are enough. Absolutely. That's great. Did you have one you wanted to add?
I was gonna say, it's okay that I don't know and that I'm still learning.
Ah, always. Yes, we are always learning. It's okay that I don't know. Yeah, we say, I haven't learned that yet. Yet is your friend, okay? Can end like every sentence with yet, right? It's okay. I haven't learned that. What else? Anything else? Yeah,
I'm grateful.
I'm grateful.
How
Yes.
you get complaining so much that you don't.
Yes, and it's November and it's almost Thanksgiving week and gratitude is not only for Thanksgiving. Does anyone do a gratitude journal? Gratitude journaling is wonderful. Really just helps you appreciate what is instead of focusing on what isn't. Yeah. Anyone else? Or
I'm proud of myself for taking the chance.
love that. Awesome. It's a great. Awesome. Those are great, guys. Thank you for those. All right, I'm going to move this back out. Thank you, Sasha. Don't ponder those. for a while? Okay. So we're gonna move on to tip 4, and to talking about how we talk to other people, how we communicate with other people. So I love this. Speak in such a way that others love to listen to you, and listen in such a way that others love to talk to you. It's an important thing. How do we get people to want to talk to us, right? Moms may, if you have teenagers, you're like me, you're constantly asking yourself that question. Okay, so when we can become this energy, I consider it like an energy magnet. When we can talk to people in a way that brings them to us, we have more opportunities, right? People are going to look up to you. People are going to want to be around you. You're going to be a better leader, going to be a better friend, right? When you're able to do this. So here's my tip number 4, which is the first one in communicating with others. Stay away from judgmental words as much as possible. You know, those words good and bad that we use 1,000 times a day, they're full of judgment. So be aware of that, of the judging and the dismissiveness, right? Sometimes we say, that's a stupid idea. That's stupid. That's dumb, right? How about saying something like, I'm not sure about that idea. Can we reconsider that? Right? When we put a judgment on something, we're completely dismissing it. And if someone brings that to you and you're completely dismissing what they bring to you, it doesn't make them feel very good, right? So we want to think about, you don't have to agree with the idea. You don't have to think that it's the best idea in the world, but how can you respond in a way that doesn't dismiss them? Right? So can we use a descriptive word rather than a judgmental word? Oh, that's helpful. That's concerning. I say that to my kids. That behavior is concerning to me. Here's why, right? We can have a conversation instead of a judgment. Sometimes I might say, I'm a little concerned. Are you okay? Are you sure that's a healthy choice for you? I might say that to my teenager. Or in a supportive way, I can say, it sounds to me like you figured it out. Nice work. Instead of saying, that's good, right? Because that makes me the judge. And then they come to you and mom, okay, is this good or bad, right? Same thing if you're a boss, right? If you have employees, if you have coworkers, if you have a friend that comes to you, right? Are you the judge? Yes, that's good, that's bad. Or are you saying, that sounds like a great idea, right? We want to leave it open, curious. So the goal is to be supportive and encouraging, especially if you're concerned, actually. We want to allow others to make their own choices, right? Not demand that they do what we want. Okay, so tip number 5, stay away from you language. You upset me, you hurt me, you did this to me, right? When we say you, it puts people on the defensive, right? Makes them go, oh, no, right? So make it about how you feel or how you felt rather than what they did, right? We can say something like, I felt left out when I wasn't included in that conversation. We can say, I felt hurt when you didn't consider how that would affect me. We can say, I felt angry when you took that without asking, right? There's a different way to approach the subject in a way that's supportive and non-judgment. So this ties back, to the self-talk too, like I am angry, right? Remember, we want to let the emotions flow. So one of the important pieces of this is, depending on the situation, we don't always want to address it in the moment, right? You might need to step out and let that emotion flow, and then you can address it in a healthy and supportive way. When we respond in the moment, a lot of stuff, that's when the anger, the frustration, the swear words come out, right? So when we take a step back, allow ourselves to regroup, take that breath and say, okay, I felt hurt when you did this, when this happened, when you chose that over our family time together this weekend, whatever it is. I have lots of life experience to call from, you know, as I said. So I just went fast. Hang on one sec. I want you to know the things that others do are not about you. Has anyone heard of the book, The Four Agreements? One of the agreements is don't take everything personally. Don't take things personally, because what people do is not about you. It's all about them. It's all about what's going on in their brain, the stories they're creating, how their day was before they walked into that interaction with you, right? So know that things that others do are not about you. Tip number 6, address only the current situation. Have you ever done this? You're always late. You never listen to me. We use these extremes, right? I'm sure that there was one time when that person wasn't late, right? I'm sure there's one time when they listened. So when we use these extremes, there's no room for growth. They go like, no, wait, there was that time in 1987 when I was not late, right? It invites an argument, right? So how do we speak so that we're not creating them? Always and never are those exaggerations, they're extremes, okay? So don't make people pay for behaviors they did last week, last month, or the last decade, okay? What happened in the past is in the past. Leave it there. Allow people to grow and change, right? We're living, growing, evolving beings, okay? We don't need to hold a grudge. It hurts you just as much as any, or actually more so than the other person, okay? Tip number 7, when asking for changed behavior, start with a positive. There are a couple of teachers in the room, yeah? I've heard this called the positivity sandwich when I gave this talk to some teachers. That's the positivity sandwich. I'm like, really? I didn't know that. So what you can say is something like, it's great that you're available to close up at the end of the day. And could you also make sure the fan is turned off when you leave? Okay. That's the person who leaves the fan on all the time. And you want to just be like, would you turn off the freaking fan? Right? You can say, if there's someone who always interrupts you, you can say, I love your feedback when I share my challenges and my stories with you. But sometimes I don't get to share the whole story before you hop in. Can you give me an extra minute to finish? Right? You ask. And by the way, they can say no, right? We cannot control what anyone else does. We can only control ourselves. Okay? We can put out with love and kindness all day long. We can't control how it's received. That's okay. So we want to, again, remove criticism. There is a way to express concern without criticizing, okay? We can request rather than require other people to do things, okay? Invite them to step up. Okay, so here's an example. How do you talk to others, right? You need to do better. Once you guys have kids, you're really gonna understand this language because it comes so naturally. But we can say something like, I see you're struggling. Can I help? How can I help you? Right? If you see someone is not performing to the level you know that they can perform, you know that they can do better. How can you coax that out of them? How can you invite them to step up? Right? Which one is going to get you the result that you want? Right? I was talking yesterday to I forget who, but we were talking about how I was talking to my mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law, my former mother-in-law is a lovely woman. By the way, divorce does not have to be ugly. I've been divorced for 6 years. My former in-laws are still super close to me. I was talking to my former mother-in-law yesterday on the drive up to Worcester. And we were talking about kids and teenagers and about how lots of teenagers don't talk to their parents. And she said, your children aren't like that. And I said, no. I said, because I don't demand that they be a certain way. I don't require them to be what I want them to be. I invite them to be who they are. and it's a conversation. And it's really nice. It's a really nice shift. When I talk to other parents, I'm like, oh, my teenager never shares with me. They never talk to me. And I'm like, yeah, mine, actually, I'm really lucky. Mine aren't like that. But a lot of that is intentional parenting to invite conversations rather than saying, I know better. And you have to do it this way. So that's just a little total tangent. That's why I need my notes, guys. You know, are we guilt tripping them? Are we saying, oh, you need to do that? Oh, you need to call your mother on the holidays, right? What are we doing? If you have parents that do this, my mother did this. Oh, you gotta call your mother on the holiday. You're not coming to see me on Thanksgiving, right? It's like, it's the guilt trip, right? If you want people to be around you, don't guilt them into being around you. Let them figure out for themselves that they want to be around you, right? They will show up when you offer a space that they want to step into, right? Had this is again inside. I have a friend who's his son went off to the army, graduated high school, went off to the army last year. And he was talking to me, he was distraught because his son was not keeping in touch as much as he wanted. And he was sending texts, they were texting. And he said, I said, I'm gonna read you this text, can I send it? And it's like, Billy, I'm your dad and I love you very much. I really want to hear how you're doing. You know, please call me. I really want to hear from you. Please call me. He said, can I send this? And I said, well, I mean, if you want to guilt him into, if you want him to call you because he's afraid that you're going to be mad, yeah, sure. He said, but if you want him to call you because you want him to call you, send him a text that says, son, I love you. Here's what's going on my end. I hope you're well. Leave it there, right? That way, when the son wants to call or text, he's going to do it. He knows he's not walking into it. Why didn't you call me last week, right? So things to think about. When we're trying to require people to follow what we want, you're not going to get the result you want as often as you want, right? So we have the power, right? This is again, we have the power to create this. So let's move on. Tip number 8, always seek the win-win. All right, problems or opportunities. Have you ever made one of these phone calls? We have a problem. Have you ever been on the receiving end of that call? We have a problem, right? How about, hey, can I run this by you? There's something I'd like us to figure out together. I've noticed something happening in the HR department, right? We use that we language. That creates teamwork, right? We're in this together. We want to use language that invites, not repels, right? Okay, so instead of calling, we need a meeting. This is a huge problem. You can say, can you make time this afternoon to sit down with me? I want to share with you what's been happening. Let's see if we can figure out a solution, right? Always seek the win-win. Create teamwork. It's not me against you. You know, if your coworker didn't get that report in on time, you don't have to call and go, you didn't get that report in, we're screwed, right? You can say, hey, this report's late. Can I help you? You know, we need to get it in. How can I help you complete that? Right? The win-win. This is how you're going to create fans, people who will support you when you're up for that promotion. You say, she's awesome. She always helps me when I'm stuck, when I'm behind, right? How can you lift others up and help them be successful, right? That's the mark of someone that people want to be around, right? I'm a better person when I'm around her. Okay. So how you speak to others, speak about others, speaks loudest about yourself, okay? How do we talk about other people, right? Do you know that the things that bother you about other people are oftentimes the things about yourself that you don't like? What you are complaining about from someone else just might be something you do. Perfect example, I did it myself for years with my kids. I'm screaming at them, clean up your stuff. You come home and you leave your stuff everywhere, right? I get so annoyed. Meanwhile, the dining room table is covered with all my stuff, all my work, all my projects, right? It's like, why do we require other people to be perfect when we are not? We are imperfect. Okay, perfect doesn't exist, by the way. You know, we can pursue better, we can pursue excellence, but please do not pursue perfect because you won't get there. It's also subjective, by the way. Perfect to you is different than perfect to you. So just pursue being the best you that you can be. That's all you need to do. Okay, tip number 9, check time. Shut down the gossip and the drama, right? Talking about others hurts everyone. It does, right? Speculating about others and what they do and why they do it is a waste of energy. Don't waste your energy on it. If you didn't hear it firsthand, you don't know the actual facts, okay? If you weren't there, or you didn't hear it firsthand from someone who was there, you don't know what happened, okay? If you did hear it firsthand from someone, be a good friend and keep it to yourself. You don't need to go blabbing it to everybody, right? Unless they're asking for help. Oh, this happened to me. So-and-so said this, so-and-so did this, I'm struggling with it. Can you help me, right? Then you can help them seek the right help to solve the problem or make the situation better, right? One thing that I started doing several years ago, I changed one word in my vocabulary. You ever have someone come up to you and say, oh my God, do you believe that so-and-so did this? Right? And you go, oh my God, that's crazy. And you turn to the next person, gee, can you believe that so-and-so did this? Right? The whole continues on and on, right? So I changed the word crazy to interesting. So now when someone comes to me and says, oh my God, can you believe so-and-so did this? I say, wow, that's interesting. And what happens there? What does that shift? It invites curiosity. Oh, gee, I wonder why they would do that. I wonder what's going on for them. I hope they're okay, right? It kind of stops that gossip in its tracks. It shuts it right down. So we don't need to hop into the drama with everybody else. We can stop that. Invite the curiosity instead of judgment. Sometimes people come to you and they're upset. They might be angry. I have a client I worked with once, and she told me this story. She told me how she saved her marriage by changing one thing. Came to a point where her husband started coming home grumpy, angry, not in a great mood. He'd come home and slam his stuff around, and she'd be like, what's wrong with you? Right? How often do we do that? Right? She realized things weren't going well, and so she decided to shift. So the next time that happened, she said, are you okay? How was your day? And just by making that shift, she said, this saved my marriage. And I explored that with her, and what we figured out was she's inviting him into a space of, are you okay, of love and support, instead of reacting to what he's bringing home, right? And when we can do that for another, for a friend, for a colleague, for a coworker, for a spouse or kids, anyone, when we can do that, when they come at you and they're upset and they're angry, and you say, are you okay? What do you need right now, right? We can change that trajectory. We can change how the whole rest of the day goes, or that night. And again, you can only control what you put out, not how others receive it. So by the way, you can be supportive, kind, and loving, and they may not receive it. That's okay, because that's about them. It's not about you, okay? At the end of the night, you put your head on the pillow and you say, I did my best today. I was kind, I was loving, right? I was supportive, right? You can't control how anyone receives that. Okay, tip number 10. Ask questions and get curious. This is kind of a summary of all the other. Ask questions and get curious rather than being negative, right? So instead of saying, I love this because I used to do this all the time. Don't you think that's wrong? What's happening when I say that sentence? Don't you think that's wrong? What's happening is I am requiring you to agree with me. Don't you think? Clearly, this is my opinion, right? Clearly. And it puts you in an uncomfortable space. What if you don't agree with me, right? Then you're like, in your head, you're like, oh God, I really don't agree with it. I don't want to upset her, you know? So it puts you in this funny space. So instead you can say, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? It doesn't put my opinion on you. It allows you to give your opinion freely. So just again, subtle shifts. Don't force your opinion or require people to agree with you, right? Instead of, I can't believe she did that, we can say, is this something that we need to address? Right? We don't want to judge it. We want to look at facts, right? Try and remove the emotion, right? Invite the conversation, invite curiosity, allow an opening for people to step in. Okay, switch the focus to solutions instead of blame or drama, okay? All right, final thoughts. Here we go. There are a lot of them, by the way. So remember the golden rule, always lead with love and kindness. You've heard, what would Jesus do, right? You've heard that. I always ask in my head, what would love and kindness do? I always ask that when I'm about to send that text, that email, make that phone call. How can I respond with love and kindness? Am I responding with love and kindness? Or am I responding out of anger or upset? Okay, again, we're all human. We're trying to get through each day. Humans need connection. We need to be loved. We want to be accepted. These are our greatest needs as human beings. How can we offer that to others? Okay. Think of the child inside each of us, especially if someone's coming at you who seems impossible, who you can't stand, who is just being awful. Think of their inner child. I always think of, it must be really hard to live that way. Or what must have happened to that person that they're so hurtful or angry or spiteful? They must be really hurting. I always think of that, especially when people are treating me poorly or treating others poorly. So again, offer a safe space for others to step into. We're all doing our best, including you. Remember how much power you have to lift others up, to support others, to create that, to change someone's bad day, right? You can change that trajectory. You have the power. I'm going to leave you with one last quote. Before you speak, ask yourself, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? Does it improve the silence? I love silence. I'm a big fan of it. I want to ask you, if I leave you with nothing else today, I want you to take this visual with you. Okay, so what kind of bubble are you creating? Are you creating a bubble that looks like this? If you envision, when you're talking, when you go into any interaction, there's like a bubble around you guys. What is inside that bubble? Is that a bubble they want to step into? Or is it something that, oh, I'm not going in there? Or get me out of here, right? Are you creating a bubble like this? Or are you creating a bubble like this? Welcome. This is a safe space. I'm here for you. And yes, this does translate to work environments because it's all the same. Communication is communication. People having a need to feel wanted, to feel accepted, to feel needed, to feel loved. You don't leave that at the door when you walk in the office. You're still a person. You're still a human being. So create that bubble of love and kindness and support and curiosity, right? And this is my thank you. Let's connect. I would love to connect with you, with each and every one of you. This is a QR code. If you hold up your phone, it's going to go right to my website. I have a mailing list if you want to get on it. I offer workshops, courses on Instagram. I'm Mama of Reinvention. And there's a lot of good stuff there, uplifting, daily stuff that's coming on. I've been sending on my stories today. There's some stuff up there. I have big dreams, big goals, and I feel that the more of us who can understand our power and harness our power and create these loving, kind spaces for others, the better the world is going to be. So I want you to take that away from today. And I want to thank you for the spaces that you're going to create when you leave this room, for the bubbles that you create when you leave this room. I want to thank you for stepping into this bubble with me today. And I'm also just going to say one last thing. Since I have a captive audience of incredible, smart, beautiful women, I'm going to put an ask out there. I'm seeking more spaces to relay this message, to get this message out there. I'm seeking to get myself out there more. Okay, so if you were sitting here going, geez, I wish my coworkers knew this stuff, right? Is there an opportunity for that? If you have anything that comes up for you, a space, a group, a workplace, if you own a business or anything, have staff or coworkers, I'd love to present this. So if you could connect with me, if you have any opportunities, I would greatly appreciate that. All right, we have like 2 minutes for questions. Questions, thoughts, feedback, notes to self you want to share?
Just a comment. Thank you for making this space, making the bubble. I love that analogy. I think that sometimes we just go so fast when pushing ourselves, but to stop and go through all of these notes to self. It's okay. And we're making shifts in our life and each step is okay.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the slow down. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Yeah, one of the workshops I do is called Permission to Pause. And it's about taking a couple hours to step off the hamster wheel and just sit and breathe and reflect, right? It's important to take a pause, reflect. How am I showing up? Am I showing up as my best self? Am I in a supportive environment that helps me to thrive? If you're not in an environment, personally or professionally, that helps you to be a great version of you, you don't have to stay there, right? Take a pause every once in a while and see that. Who's your tribe, right? Who's around you? Are they lifting you up or bringing you down, right? Life's a long journey. So there's a lot of stuff going through, and sometimes we graduate and then we get a job and then we do this and we do that and things get left behind. Sometimes things have to get left behind. We can't bring everything with us, right? It's okay to grow and evolve. Yeah. Any other comments? Questions?
I actually have a question.
Yes,
Sorry, I know I'm hidden, but say you're in your bubble and you want to attract people to your bubble, how do you have the confidence to be vulnerable if you're faced with a negative person, a negative situation, and you have to lash out? Like, how do you be vulnerable and stay in that space of safety?
It's a really good question. I think part of it is practice. And there's been talk today about authenticity, showing up as your authentic self. The more you do it, the more you step in and you can speak up for yourself in a kind and loving way, even if it's not received well, you still hopefully will leave that interaction saying, well, I stood up for myself. I supported myself. I didn't abandon my views or my values or what it is I'm seeking, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it.
I just mentioned about that.
Yeah, Lori probably has some.
I think that I had that feeling a lot, and over my life I felt that way a lot. And somebody said to me at one point, but part of the human experience, right, is there's going to be some suffering, and there's going to be some sadness, and there's going to be some anger, and there's going to be people that don't like us. And to put yourself out there authentically means you're going to have some of that. But it's all of that is, if you just hold on to yourself. First of all, accept that's going to happen, and to instead of setting out saying, how do I protect myself from this, or how do I set myself so that never happens, then you will diminish other experiences that happen to you as a result. So if you open yourself up to being loving and kind, not everyone's going to respond the same way, but you also invite so much more in that you never would have had. And so you kind of have to take the whole package and just accept this as part of the human experience. I will have some suffering. And honestly, speaking of someone who is 63, it's made me better, a much better person. Have you ever met people who are in their 30s and who have the skids have been greased their whole lives, right? They've had, everything has been easy. Mom and dad have, made sure that they are assholes, right? You don't want to know those people, seriously, right? People that have suffered and struggled are much more interesting and compassionate. And if along the way you get knocked up a little bit, knocked around a little bit, I mean, emotionally, it's just part of the human experience and you can't avoid all that.
Sorry, yeah, no, that was good. That's, I mean, it's true. Yes. I mean, when you show up authentically, and I think I was telling you earlier, like when I was at Holy Cross and like most of my life, I just tried to fit in, protect myself. Like I just want to fit in. I don't want anyone to notice me. I just want to coast through. And at some point that stopped working actually, it never really worked for me, but I survived. But
And what did we miss?
yeah, like, and now I'm like, hey, here I am,
am.
this is me, take it or leave it. But by doing that, I have the best friendships I've ever had. Like I have the people that you meet. Have you ever gone into a room or a conference or a restaurant? Like, I want to meet that person, right? Like, what is it about them? Is it the confidence they exude? Is it that, I used to always want to fit in, and I would inevitably, I'd go to a meeting or a conference or something, and there'd be someone there who was like so clearly authentic themselves. And I'd be like, I want to be like that. So it's so interesting, the more that you can show yourself, the more you can attract your tribe, the people who will support you. But it takes, it takes confidence, and you build the confidence by doing it more and more. And sometimes you just like try one little thing, a little bit different. Today I'm going to speak to one person, or today I'm going to do this instead, right? You have to build on it. Just all of a sudden wake up and have all this confidence. But just like everything else in life, it takes practice. Okay. Anything else? We're over time.
Plug that Nancy and I are working to bring the permission to pause to campus in the spring. So stay tuned for some programming.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to this bubble today, everybody.